All right, here we go. It's Thursday. I can confirm it's Thursday because I did confirm it with Beaver just a little bit ago. That in fact, it is Thursday here on the bureau, on the show, in the bureau. Not on the bureau, in the bureau. Like George Carlin, the comedian, said. No, I don't want to get on the airplane. I'm not getting on the plane. I want to get in the plane. Yeah, we are in the studio. The Farm Bureau Insurance Studio, Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance. Go! With the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau all across the great state of Mississippi. Welcome in on this Thursday. I'm Matt. Beaver is here. I can confirm that. There's a whole lot of confirming going on. And you can be a part of the show today and help us confirm what it is that we need to be talking about here today with you. Whatever you want to get into is cool with me. Yeah, and truthfully, it has felt a little bit like one of those, like a transition week. Has it felt that way to you? I mean, no, we have plenty of games coming up. Lots of bowl games and, of course, the playoff games coming up and everything. But the fact that you had the regular season behind you, rivalry weekend on the last weekend of the year, it's done. Then you had the championship games, conference championship games this past week, got that done. And, yeah, I think I really started to feel it yesterday, and today I'm able to just recognize it. We're in full-on transition mode right now. Like, it's postseason. None of that, frankly, really affecting anybody around here, unfortunately. And then what? Christmas break, all of that. Got to figure out which days we're working and which days we're not. When to come back from the new year after Christmas. Start a whole new year. Yeah, like then what? So whatever you want to get into is cool with me. Feel free to text me on the Country Pleasing text line. The number to text is 885-3776. That's a 601 number, 885-3776. You can also call me on the Divinity phone. The number to call the show is 897-1059. I can confirm it works because I called in yesterday on the Jake Show while Chris Brooks was in there. Yeah, and I was picking on Chris a little bit. I don't know who picks on Chris worse, me or Real C. It's one of us. But I can confirm phone lines are working smoothly. So give me a call, 897-1059. Yes, indeed, you do have some ground-breaking, earth-shaking coaching hires happening out there just out of nowhere. We're going to talk about all that coming up. But first, where is he? Happy Thursday, Beeve.
You too, Matt Wyatt.
So was I too hard on Chris Brooks yesterday afternoon?
No way. No way. I told you someone needs to be hard on Chris, and I didn't expect it to be Matt Wyatt, but it was. So someone's got to be, so it might as well be.
I was trying to remember what all I said. I know I did pick on him for lying to us and telling us he was in the shower at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That's why he couldn't come on this show.
Mm-hmm.
You're in agreement with me. We don't think that was true.
No, I don't think that was true at all. And then he tried to sidestep, because that wasn't the only time. Uh-huh. It happened again. Now, he didn't claim he was in the shower. Another time he just didn't answer, but he tried to sidestep that.
Yeah.
When I brought that to his attention.
Yeah. I felt like I went a little too far, though, Beaver, when I said that, I made the joke about him donating to the Ole Miss collective. And I said, but that would only be one of two teams that he just adopted after he didn't go to school there, the other one being Northwest Rankin. And I felt like that was a little bit of a low blow.
Well, he also just skated by the Northwest Rankin mention.
He's a pro now. He's a pro. Well, okay. How did he seem like he was flustered or bothered or had his feelings hurt at all after that was over?
No.
None? Okay.
No.
No. How'd Jake feel about it? How does Jake react when, Jake does he does a hard sports show. There ain't a whole lot of playing around, joking around. How does he react when then somebody like me calls in and starts joking around?
He probably wasn't even in here at the time. Jake uses the cover of Chris is coming in he'll step out and go do like other stuff, which is in a professional organization. Like, you ever hear Dan Patrick or Colin Cowherd or Doug Gottlieb or anybody else in a real radio show, their radio show, step out? No. No. But when Chris comes in, like, there was a couple points where Jake walks out and he's like, oh, I'm going to go do this. I'm like, dude, you have a radio show. But, I understand this radio company is about money first, money second. Your own radio show's third. So disgusting salesman, Jake, you go along with it too.
Well, it's like college football. It's money is the only factor that matters anymore, right?
Yep.
That is funny though, my man Jake. Hey, we'll be right back. I got to step out for a minute. Jake, that man is a hoot now. Old Jake.
And Chris had to just open it back up and host it for one 12-minute segment.
Did he really?
And then the actual
segment?
host comes back in. That ain't the way things are supposed to work.
How about that? Was Chris comfortable with it? Like riding a bike and back on the horse and no problem? Hosting a show?
He was fine.
That's good. Hate I missed it. I was only halfway kidding when I said, Beaver, that I'm boycotting that show whenever Chris is on it. I was only halfway kidding. Whatever that means. All right. Let me get to some of your texts here on the Country Pleasing text line. Country Pleasing sausage on grocery store shelves all around the Southeast. Bill said, Matt, there's no such thing as being too hard on Chris Brooks. Yeah. You see where Capital Sports MS, they had Tupelo ranked number one, the number one large school in the large school poll. They had Tupelo number one. And the small school poll, smaller, but they had Hartfield number one. I think they had our MRA number two even. I think that's what they had in there. Yep, saw that today. Jason in Flagstaff was listening yesterday, apparently, and what he said, he enjoyed it. He probably agrees to, but he says, the quote, nobody who works showers at 1 p.m. had me rolling. I forgot I said that. Oh, Beaver, I forgot that was part of that comment. Nobody with a job is showering at 1 p.m. or at 4 or 5. I forgot that I said that. I feel bad. I think I went in a little too heavy on Chris there. Grumpy texts the show. Look at here. He says, Grumpy, maybe the next few days you can give us some baseball info, MSU baseball goings on, schedules, etc. And then Grumpy's not kidding. He went ahead yesterday and flipped it over to 106.3 to program it so he can be ready for baseball. Man, what are we, less than 2 months away from the start of college baseball season? Yeah, I'm going to welcome that just like you are. All right, here is some of the news that is out there breaking today. Hunter on YouTube is alluding to it here. How do you feel about this? Dan Mullen gets the UNLV job. Dan Mullen, former Bulldog, former Gator head coach, now is the head coach of the UNLV Running Rebels. No. The irony is not lost on me of that Dan Mullen is now the head coach of the Rebels. What a tangled web we weave. Now, Hunter said he's a good fit there. He doesn't have to recruit 5 stars. He has championship rings, has players in the NFL. He can use the transfer portal nowadays. Plus, he can play golf. You know what else, Hunter? I thought of that too. You know what? At least one of his kids, maybe both, are big-time golfers, and it's a great place if you like golf. It's a good fit. And the school, the level, yeah, they're outside the P4, but, Hunter, listen to this statement. You know what dawned on me this morning? As I was thinking about the fact that Boise is in there with a bye and that SMU is in over Alabama and the way this all works, you know what dawned on me this morning, Hunter? Listen to this statement. The reason the SEC and its teams who were left out are so angry at what the College Football Playoff Committee did is because they essentially have said SMU and Boise State have an easier path to the playoff than Alabama and Ole Miss and South Carolina. Now listen to that statement. If you tell me if it's false, or tell me if you disagree, because I don't think you do, and I don't think most anybody can disagree. And I think that as our heads were spinning back on Monday, trying to figure out, how can he didn't put Alabama in? Really? I can't believe it. I never would have. You know, that whole thing. I'm slow, and it took me till today, Thursday, to really categorize this thing in my head and go, yeah, that's what it is. Here's what it is. Here's what the committee has done. That format, along with that committee, has basically plastered this on a billboard for the entire world to look at. And it says, Boise State and SMU have easier, less obstructive routes to the playoff than Alabama and Ole Miss do. Period. They got an easier path to the playoff than South Carolina does. In fact, think about what I'm saying, Hunter. And I mean, again, just think about it flatly on the surface of what we're looking at. Schedules, conference alignment, all this. And here's what I'm saying. Boise and SMU have an easier path to the playoff than any SEC team does. It does not mean they're going to win it when they get in the playoff. What it means is they have an easier path to get in the playoffs than any SEC team. That's what they have essentially said. Now, here's why I thought of that. I thought of it because Dan Mullen at UNLV, well, what's UNLV's schedule? Really? I mean, they're like Boise, right? I mean, that's effectively who they are. Barry Odom, former SEC coach at Missouri. Odom's moved on now, went to Purdue. But he had him in the top 25 this year. And you look at UNLV's schedule this year. They were a 3-loss team. Finished the year, after the loss to Boise in their title game at 10-3. They are going to play in a bowl game. But they were 10-2 in the regular season. But look at their schedule. Houston, Utah Tech, Kansas. That's a good win for them, 23-20. Fresno State, Syracuse, Utah. Syracuse win was in overtime, 44-41. Utah State, Oregon State, Boise State, lost to them twice. Hawaii, San Diego State, San Jose State, and Nevada. Here's the thing. And they lose to Boise in the title game. Lost to them in the regular season, lose to them in the title game. But if you reverse that, and any given year, Boise down a little bit, UNLV up, you win those 2 games, you're in the same boat Boise's in. You've run the gauntlet of your year, you're in the playoff at UNLV. And it is an easier path to the playoff than any SEC team has. Houston, Utah Tech, Kansas, Fresno State, Syracuse, Utah State, Oregon State, Boise State, Hawaii, San Diego State, San Jose State, Nevada. Now, yeah, you got to go undefeated or have one loss and you're just on the verge of not even being in the conversation. Okay? Win all your games, you're in. But Boise, they had the same schedule effectively, and look what they did with it. Boise this year, their one loss was to Oregon, second week of the year, on the road by 3 points. Boise has a bye in the playoff, and they played and won against Georgia Southern, Portland State, Washington State, Utah State, Hawaii, UNLV, San Diego State, Nevada, San Jose State, Wyoming, Oregon State, UNLV. What am I telling you? Look at SMU's schedule. Look at Boise. What the committee did effectively is to tell you, man, these schools actually have an easier path to the playoff than the SEC schools do. That's what they're mad about. That's what the SEC schools, their ADs, the commissioner, their coaches, that's what they're so furious about, is how can we have a scenario where you have confirmed to us via your decisions they actually have an easier path to getting in the playoff than we do? That's what they're mad about. Let me know what you think. And so, yeah, it's Dan Mullen at UNLV. Dan can be a real, somebody called it one time personality quirks. The truth about it is he can just be a real horse's rear end a good portion of the time. Hard to deal with, ornery, prickly. Yeah, I guess a lot of good coaches have been that way. Okay, but nobody has ever accused him of being dumb. And that's not what he is. And I think he knows what he's getting into at UNLV. And knowing that you're probably going to expand the number of teams again, over again. And that's the one thing that this recent decision now, because, yeah, they're going to revisit this thing for this playoff format for the start of 2026. So not this next year, but the next. But this round of decision-making by the committee and the fact that the SEC is good and mad about it for the reason that I just lined out for you probably means that the SEC, and maybe with the help of the Big Ten, is really going to throw their weight around in formatting the next playoff. And probably going to be fine with adding the number of teams, going up to 16. Which, on that note, it was 2 years ago today that the great Mike Leach passed away. 2 years ago today. And he, as many as 10 years ago, nailed the fallacy of the playoff thinking and design back then. Just nailed it. He was in a press conference when he was at Washington State. Again, I think it was 10 years ago. Press conference, Washington State, probably toward the end of it. One of the media members, Washington State, throws a question at him, and, it's about playoff stuff. And he gets into it. The first thing out of his mouth, the whole country's like, 4 teams, it's a playoff, which is not a playoff. First thing out of his mouth, he said, I think 64 teams would be the right number, 64. Well, back then, Mike Leach says 64. They're like, quirky Mike Leach. Nobody's ever doing 64. That's stupid. You know what? He's exactly right. But the next thing out of his mouth was, but I think the minimum is 16 teams. Nailed it. And most likely we're going to look up in a couple of years and they're going to go to 16 teams. And finally some of it's going to begin to make some sense. And 10 years ago, he was all over it. In fact, you know what? I think on the anniversary of him passing, it'd be fine to come back in a minute. I'm gonna listen to that clip with you of all those years ago when so eloquently and entertainingly he lined out just how stupid it was for college football leaders. And you know they already hated him for lots of things, but you know good and well they didn't like him coming right out and saying it. They want their pats on the back. They want their flowers. Here's Mike Leach going, 4 teams ain't no playoff. It's not even a playoff. 16 would be the minimum. But you really need to do 60-something. And just called them out. What does high school do? Big fat playoff. Division III, yeah, big one. Division II, 30-something teams. 1AA, yep. What about the NFL? I mean, we need to go back and listen to that. So you can bet your bottom dollar. They sent a loud message. It's an easier path to the playoff, to getting in the playoff at Boise State than it is at any SEC school. And the SEC is furious about it. And it is absolutely going to change. The format is going to change. Most likely the number of teams go up and more spots will be guaranteed to strength of schedule teams like those in the Big Ten and the SEC. That's coming. All right, just getting started with y'all here on this Thursday in the Bureau, the Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Stick around.
I'm Eddie Holcomb with Washington County Farm Bureau Insurance.
I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County.
I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau.
I'm Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and murraywest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. When I say they do quality stuff, they really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, I mean, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, murraywest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. If you need your logo printed, embroidered, sewn on to anything, custom apparel and other stuff, make sure you go there. Murray West, you can find them online. murraywest.com. That's MURRY West.com.
I had this opportunity come up to a friend of mine that was an agent here at Farm Bureau that, he said this may be something I like to do because he knew I was involved in the community. And what we do, we're supporting the community. We're doing stuff to protect the members of our community. I've been here almost a decade. And what we do, we help people every day through the products we sell. We make recommendations to them, stuff to protect their assets, protect their lives, their families, and we're local. We're local people. Everybody that works in this office has grown up here, lived here, played ball in this community. I've coached in this community, been on the park boards, the sports league boards, the booster club boards. The community is what's important here in Farm Bureau. We push the local community. We're a Mississippi company. That's a Washington School team ball from 2019. Greg Wallace was the head coach then, and him and I were really good friends. I've been in Greenville my whole entire life. My family's been here. This is home. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to support the people of Washington County, protect them. I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County. We are the home team.
I think you know what time it is. It's time to eat. Country pleasing, jalapeno and cheddar, green onion. And no, it's not a grill, see that? But the fire is just about burnt down enough where it's time to put some of this on there. And the only decision when it comes to country pleasing sausage is which flavor, jalapeno and cheddar or maybe green onion. Both.
Break me off a piece of that.
Look at that. What that is. That's real green onion. Like that monkey who set his tail on a railroad track. It won't be long now.
Right now on the Zone 105.9 and worldwide at thezone1059.com.
All right, back with you. I got hot coffee in the mug from High Point Roasters in New Albany, Mississippi. High Point Roasters, you can get your coffee there, highpointroasters.com. This flavor is called Viennese. You're going to like it. You'll like it. Look them up right there, highpointroasters.com. All right, on the Country Pleasing text line, Country Pleasing sausage on grocery store shelves all around the Southeast. White Denzel says, Mullen to Vegas or UNLV makes sense because where else can you wear shorts 24 hours a day? Attaboy, Denzel. Picking up what you're putting down. Steven texts the show, said, Matt, do you see any of these state football players that have entered the transfer portal returning? I'd love to know how many players enter the portal and never play again. A bunch of them don't. Yeah, a bunch of them enter the portal. You never hear from them again. You know, guys like Van Buren and Coleman, the receiver, they'll have plenty of opportunities. You know, and really, you know, at some point, you look at a guy like Coleman, he's really, really good. Okay, the kid is really good. I mean, watching him this past year, I remember having a conversation with a couple people going, hey, when you watch some of the things that Kevin Coleman does, in the larger landscape, it's a little hidden because State's team is not good, and so don't quite get the buzz and the attention because they're not winning the games. But when you look at just individually some of the stuff he does and punt return and everything else, when's the last time State had a receiver that good? Who's he in the conversation with in the top 3 to 5? You know, and how far back do you have to go? Those were interesting conversations. He's really good. But it almost feels like it would benefit him to have found somewhere to stick for a little while. Like it's almost as good as he is, it probably holds him back to now be going to 4 schools in 5 years. But I don't know. He's probably good enough that you go get yourself drafted and have a chance anyway. But those kind of guys are going to have plenty of opportunities. The ones who never played it down or didn't play much, and they may be hard pressed. Nick is counting it down to baseball. 63 days, 11 hours, and 49 minutes. He's got it. Hog Jowl texts the show, and he says, I decided I'm entering the transfer portal for best Christmas guest at parties. For $500, I'll come to parties and shower the host with constant compliments about the great planning, their funny jokes, the food, the ambiance. Cash only. Tips encouraged. Now that is an idea. You will hire out Hog Jowl as almost like a party favor. You come to the party and you make sure that it goes over positively with the guests. You know, we laugh about that, but I promise you, Hog Jowl, there's some elites out there who would absolutely pay you to do it. If they were convinced, they wouldn't bat an eye. Tyga texts the show, says, Matt, please find the clip of him talking about the committee and how stupid it is. Yeah, I wasn't able to get it pulled up during the commercial break, but I think I'll have it. Hopefully, I'll have it for the next segment here of the show and be able to play it for you then. That's my hope. Because yes, when Coach Leach, and again, I think it was like somewhere around 8 to 10 years ago that he was doing this. He went off on this deal, and it's just what we're thinking now. Okay, and again, he's almost a decade ahead. Because that was the thing about Coach Leach, is he was just unencumbered by anyone's expectations, by anybody else's opinion. He could just kind of see things clearly the way he saw it. And so here we are. It takes us a while. Have to get beat over the head by circumstances to start to see things clearly 10 years later. He could already see it then. He said minimum on this playoff deal is 16 teams. But he's right. You want to have a real playoff? Expand it, make it big. Have a real deal playoff. Unnamed texter said, in honor of Leach, we ought to play Pirates of the Caribbean theme song. Yeah, right. The old pirate. J-Rock texts the show. He says, hey, Matt, second year in a row, toughest conference schedule for the worst team in the SEC. Yeah, I saw what State's got next year. And we'll go over that some in hour number 2, looking at the schedules they put out last night. But it's like flip-flop for everybody from this year to next year. So for State, it's a lot of early season home games, like a ton of early season home games. And then majority of the road games are on the back half of your schedule. Now, you know, and it did mix in a few home games in the second half of the year. But it's like basically if you draw the year in half for State, whole bunch of road games in the second half of the year, whole bunch of home games early in the year. You know, a couple of years ago, Ole Miss had that, where like they played at home for the first half of the season, then they went on the road for the second half of the season. And State's schedule is really tough. I mean, you're talking about out of conference, it's Arizona State playoffs. In conference, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee. It's tough. Rebel Greg texts the show. He said, with this playoff expansion, if it happens or don't, it's just the beginning of the SEC building a super conference where all the blue bloods will join. Yeah, it does feel like it's going that way, doesn't it? And some others on, excuse me, on the live stream. Jay over here on the live stream, he's on YouTube. He said players will eventually be contract employees and there will be some sort of salary cap. You know, I think that's true also. Yeah, I do. He had said they're going to continue to change the system and we'll eventually end up with 16 teams, 4 major 16-team conferences, and then, right, you get a certain number from each one. Sounds about right. And, you know, they're not obligated. The SEC and the Big Ten, for example, who have the TV viewership, the TV contracts, and the fan bases, and everything, all the leverage kind of going for them, they're not obligated to bring everybody along with them, but I just think that they probably realize it's best to do that. And, you know, it's best for everybody to do that. Again, looking at the NFL sort of as an example there. Danny mentioned that a minute ago. He said, hey, Matt, players are going to have to start signing contracts that guarantee them so much money and protects the institution from the transfer portal merry-go-round. Yeah, I mean, some way to kind of sort of manage it, right? It's one thing, and you've heard this over and over until you're sick of hearing it. Okay, but it's one thing if you had the transfer portal wide open like you do by itself, or it's one thing if you just had the pay for play, you can shell out money and pay them to come play for you by itself. Those are different animals to deal with and easier to deal with. The problem is you have both. It's like if you're going to be paying these guys, the environment sort of demands that you have to pay them to get them to come and play for you. Okay, so you're going to be paying these guys, but you will not have any sort of contractual agreement that obligates them to actually stay and play for you. And, well, if that's the case, how are you going to continue with that, right? You got to have something. Nobody in the history of the world has had that much going for them. Like you could say, okay, pay me to come and do a certain job over at your house. And you take a signing bonus, sort of as a guarantee that you'll show up and do the job that you're going to do over at somebody's house. And then you go over there to their house and you get started and you're about halfway through it. And you just take your signing bonus and leave. And don't come back. Like, wait a minute, why'd you leave? You didn't finish. You're like, well, I had a better offer to work on somebody else's house for, you were only paying me $50 an hour. They're going to pay me $75 an hour to do the job over there. I'm gone. And you're like, you didn't finish. We had an agreement here. I even gave you a signing bonus. I'm suing your butt off, and any judge is going to side with me. And guess what? That would be true. But not in the case of college sports. And it all goes back to the problem that the people shelling out the money won't call it what it is. They call it NIL when it's not NIL. And by doing that, they lose any sort of legal leverage or standing over what they're spending. Now, how stupid is that? NCAA rules don't matter. The NCAA has no subpoena power. They aren't the law. They're simply rules that you have to volunteer to follow. Any school wanted to sign a kid to a contract and call it pay for play could do it. And it'd hold up legally in any court. They won't do it. We got to call it NIL when it's not. It's the dumbest thing they've gotten themselves into ever. All right, I'm Matt. What did Mike Leach say about the playoffs 10 years ago? I'll have that for you coming up. Stick around.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal that tastes grand, the cereal that's All-Bran, a breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of 𝐌𝐬𝐬𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐢 and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing, it's a fun thing, it's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing, it's a wing wing. A brand new transparent fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite star thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the $67.95 Mazda SE5. Introducing Mazda SE5 Plus 5. $625 worth of extra features at...
All right, here we go. Back with you. So somewhere about 8 to 10 years ago, when Mike Leach was the head coach at Washington State, he went in on the newly formed at that time playoff. They only have 4 teams, though. And he had bigger, broader ideas. It turns out he was right about that long before everybody else would laugh and snicker at it. Turns out he was exactly right. And now many of you have heard, again, a decade-old rant that Coach Leach went on at one of his press conferences while at Washington State about the playoff. But if you haven't heard it, you need to pay attention.
I think 64 teams, but I think the minimum is 16. If you had 16 teams, then I think we could settle a whole lot of these issues. You know, it doesn't matter what the East Coast or Los Angeles or anybody in between thinks. All of a sudden there's 16 teams. Oh, geez, number 16 beat number 4. Well, screw number 4. Number 4 is out, you see, because number 16 got them. You know, I mean, that'd pretty well solve all of it, wouldn't it? And then 32, you could easily do 32. And then, you know, the most stunning thing, and I give this lecture probably 3 times every year, but then college football says, they scratch their head and they give a really befuddled, mixed up look, and they get a really screwy expression on their face. Like, well, how can that possibly be? I mean, how can we do that? I mean, how is it possible that you could actually have a playoff format in college football? Well, gee, I don't know. Let's start with, we can go down to the local city park, and I'll bet you somebody that handles youth football could tell you how to do something like that. Well, that's too low of a scale. Let's move it up a little bit. Okay, how about high school from a major state? Let's say Texas, Florida, or California. Let's see how they do it. Okay, let's see. These guys, you know, they win a certain number of games. They have a qualification. Okay, now, boom, they're in the playoffs. But they don't have just 2 or 4 teams or something. Hell no, because they want everybody to have fun and enjoy this playoff system. So they have 16 or 32 or 64 or something like that. Okay, so then they play each other, and everybody's on the edge of their seat going to wait and see if this team's going to beat that team or going to beat the other team. And so then, in the end, there's occasionally a debate. If only this team hadn't lost to that team in this round, then this team could have won the whole thing, and that's perhaps true. But the thing that is indisputable is that at the end of the gauntlet, this team came out on number 1, and there's no debate whatsoever who's state champions. Then you can go to Division III. Let's see, how do they do it? Oh, they do it the exact same way. Okay, now the suspense is really starting to get thick because, Division II might do it differently. No, in fact, they don't. They do it exactly, boys and girls, like Division III does. And then now they've changed the initials because in this era of political correctness, they love to change initials and make it proper to say things one way instead of another. And I forget what the initials is. But then they go to 1AA. Okay, at 1AA. How do they do it in 1AA? 1AA. I mean, because that's getting closer to us, and we're really sophisticated because we're major 1A. How do they do it in 1AA? You know what? They have a playoff format, and they play it, and they figure it out. And then, okay. Well, they're all below us. Okay, what about above us? The NFL. And everybody, that just makes you feel good to roll those initials off your. It's like Huckleberry Finn said. Some days I just have to swear to get a good taste in my mouth. Okay, so then NFL. Now that makes my mouth feel good because that's the best and they're the top. Let's see here. How did they figure out their champion? Well, they in fact organize a playoff system. And how many teams are in there? A hell of a lot more than 4. And then they sort it all out, and then they have one battle after the next. And at the end, guess what? They sort out a champion, and it's called the Super Bowl. And there's not interest diminished because people are captivated by the playoffs. And the biggest sporting event every year in the history of the world is the Super Bowl. Okay, any questions?
How many regular season games would you play with a 16-team playoff? Because like Division III, I think they play 10 games rather than 12 or 13 like you play in.
Well, okay, so in major college, or in major big high school states, usually a champion plays 16. So I think your target point is 16. So you shoot for 16. And then that's what a Division II ends up to. Division III, maybe it's 15. 1AA, usually it's 16. Major high school, it's 16. NFL, it's more than that. So I think our target's 16. And you could easily, start it out. And then the other thing that I think college foolishly does is they just give the NFL December. I mean, there's no sense in that. I mean, you could be having playoff games there in December and everybody could potentially live happily ever after. And then the other thing is you could even sort the schedule in such a way that you have an off week 1 week, half of America has an off week 1 week, the other half has an off week the next week, and you never have to play somebody after the off week. If you wanted to go 64, which I think would be brilliant, 10 regular season games. 10 regular season games. Okay, you play your 10 games. Okay, then, but everybody's guaranteed 12 for their budget, and this would be exciting too. Everybody's guaranteed 12. Play your 10 regular season games. Okay, and then get to 64. Okay, so you're playing, and then halfway in between the 10 regular season games, like say around 5 and 6, half the country's off, and half the country's playing. And then the other half the country's off, the other half the country's playing. Okay, so you have a built-in break. Okay, so then as you get towards the end of the season, some teams know they're not going to make the 64. So you have a week off to select the 64. So on that week off, a couple teams that know they're not making the 64, they schedule, for one of their 12 games. They schedule it, and so it's like, somebody say on the West Coast, play somebody way over on the East Coast so we can sort out all this East Coast bias we're talking about. I mean, maybe that team could get to the bottom of it, and we would all be enriched by what they discover.
And he went on further. He took a few more questions if you want to watch that whole thing, but God rest his soul. We lost Mike Leach 2 years ago today, and you still find those nuggets of things that he was thinking about and suggesting that turns out it's exactly right. Because let me just tell you what's going to happen. Let's say that was I don't know, 2014 or 16, somewhere around in there, when he gave that talk of his idea for playoff stuff. To make it more interesting, he's exactly right. The more teams, the better. Okay. Can it be done? Yeah, it absolutely can. Hogwash what they always used to tell you about emphasizing the regular season, which would insinuate that anybody out there who has some form of a full-on playoff doesn't emphasize the regular season, which is false. Okay, but then when he said, again, all those years ago, a minimum of 16, you know what's about to happen? This little experiment of tentatively, hesitantly inching towards more playoff, and we just go to 12, and it's, 4 highest ranked conference champs going to get them a bye, and then some others, and then they're fixing to change it for 2026, and I guarantee you it will be a minimum of 16 teams. And when they do it, it will be better. It will make more sense. It will be more ironed out. There will be less debate and like gnashing of teeth at the end of the year when teams aren't in it. Trust me. Meaning he nailed it. He was exactly right. A minimum of 16, bare minimum, either have a playoff or don't. If you're even going to discuss playoff, he said it 10 years ago, minimum of 16. He's just smarter than everybody else. And part of being smart is being brave enough to think outside this little box you've built around yourself. And he did it. And listen to this. Something tells me we got enough examples from the late, great Mike Leach that we should have been paying a little closer attention to the details of some of the ideas that he had over the years. Remember back when he and Hal Mummy came up with this revolutionary passing approach? And the next thing you know, within about 10 years, the entire NFL was using it. Every offensive scheme was using those and teaching them and putting them in the same way. Remember that? They were first on that. This playoff thing, he was first on that. If you go back a few years ago, like a year before he passed away, he was on a show on the SEC Network at SEC Media Days, and he told you what you ought to do about this portal and pay for play stuff. And his idea was really clear and really smart, and it makes the most sense. Let them choose. Scholarship, you want a degree, you want to be a student, you're a student athlete. You don't want that, you want to be a pro, you want to be a pro on the team, fine. We got two kinds of players, but if you choose that, we can also cut you. We can also trade you. You choose which one you want. He knew what he was talking about. Stick around.
Getting directions to the Christmas tree farm.
20 minutes away.
Sharing
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was, their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." Well, it might do some good, said the wife with a sigh. Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try. Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal that tastes grand, the cereal that's All-Bran, a breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of 𝐌𝐬𝐬𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐢 and 𝐅𝐚𝐫𝐦, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing. It's a fun thing. It's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. It's a wing wing. A brand new transparent fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the '67-95 Mazda SE5. Introducing Mazda SE5 Plus 5. $625 worth of extra features at no extra charge from Mazda. You get a bed liner, mud guards, sliding rear window, floor mats, and AM/FM stereo. That's a $625 value at no extra charge. But hurry, offer ends soon.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm fink on a friend to get a promotion?
Yeah, yes, yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court. Thursday.
For over half a century, dairymen have tried to capture in cans the flavor of pure, fresh milk. And now Foremost has discovered the secret with an evaporated milk that's closest by far to fresh milk itself.
Kind of hard to believe, isn't it? An evaporated milk that doesn't have that old-fashioned evaporated milk taste. But it's true, and you can prove it. You know how most evaporated milks taste in coffee. The flavor goes flat. But try Foremost. You'll see it's white, the way milk ought to look, not drab tan like other brands. And when you taste it, well, if you're anything like me, you'll never even know it isn't pure, fresh cream. You try it and see. That's Foremost, the closest thing in cans to pure, fresh milk. Remember, your family gets the most from Foremost.
Coca-Cola, come on, girl. Gotta share a Coke with you. Let the feeling through. You wanna live a little bit more. That's what the taste of Coke is for. Coke is life. Everybody wants a little life. Coca-Cola, Coke is life. Everybody.
All right. Hour number 2 of the show on this Thursday. Off and running. Get it on in here. You can be a part of the show. You can text me on the Country Pleasin' text line, Country Pleasin' Sausage, on grocery store shelves throughout the Southeast. I had jalapeno and cheddar and cheese grits. Yes, sir. Number to text is 885-ESPN. Got it? Text on that number, 885-ESPN. It's a 601 number. We'll get it. We'll get it. We're going to look at schedules. They put out the dates and sort of the order of games for every SEC team last night. State's going to have one of the toughest schedules in the country again next year. Sven said State will not win a single SEC home game next year. Well, yeah, they got Texas, Georgia, Ole Miss. They got some tough ones at home next year for sure. What's Steve say? Steve on Facebook says, why don't we always have a tough schedule and the Rebs get off light? They hadn't, none of the SEC schedules are, frankly, getting off light. It's just some are a little tougher than others. That's just the way I look at it. And I still think that year to year we're going to have surprises. Nobody thought coming into this year, nobody dreamed coming into this year that Vandy would actually be a challenge on lots of team schedules. It beat Alabama and played Texas to 3 points or something like that. I mean, really, nobody, you didn't have a clue. And it's because of transfers. First year stuff. There'll be more of that next year. I think it's all less predictable. You can't hold over your thoughts and opinions of a team from one year to the next as much as you used to be able to. Hunter texted me on the Country Pleasing text line, and he said, Matt, I have a question. He's piggybacking off of this debate we had earlier in the week about pass rusher versus quarterback. He said, if you could choose, would you rather have the best of the best in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line, or the best 7-on-7 guys, quarterbacks, receivers, and tight ends, and why? Oh, my goodness. Hunter, that's the easiest question you have asked me. And honestly, it may be the easiest answer I'll ever have to give on a question on this show. And it's the trenches. 10 times out of 10, 50 times out of 50, 100 times out of 100. If I'm the coach, if I'm on the team, if I'm rooting for the team, and I could choose, we're going to have the best of the best in the trenches, or I can have the best skill guys, QBs, receivers, tight ends. Which one am I choosing? It's not a choice. It's O-line, D-line every single time. Because, Hunter, if you're good there, like really good there, all your skill guys, whether they're any good or not, are going to look good. There are a whole lot more misses by NFL evaluators when evaluating quarterbacks, receivers. There are a whole lot more misses there than they miss on evaluating offensive line and defensive line. And the reason is it translates, and O-line, D-line, they make everybody else look good when they're good. You can take a bunch of average guys at your skill play positions, and they're going to have a lot of success if you're dominating the line of scrimmage on both sides the way it is. It's trenches all day, every day. Spend your money there. To me, it's really clear for State. You got to buy players, right? You got to spend money on players. Yep. You got to build it from scratch, right? You're at the bottom. Yep. The answer is clear. Period. End of story. You spend your money primarily on the line of scrimmage. Period. It's that easy. Well, more on that in a bit. We'll look at schedules coming up also. Released last night. When I was looking at my schedule today, I thought to myself, I said, self, you overate at Thanksgiving 2 weeks ago. You should have seen the spread of food that the homecoming queen put out for us. And then I ate leftovers for a week. That's a true story. And then coming up on the schedule, I just had a birthday. Cake, goodies, cookies. She gave me a 4-foot box, 4-foot-long box of cookies. I'm not kidding. We got Christmas coming up. It'll be more food and we can shake a stick at. And honestly, it's tough because you know what? In our state here in Mississippi, not everybody is that fortunate. In fact, there are a whole bunch of people that don't even have a sliver of that. Good food, the right kinds of food, and plenty of food at their disposal. I've talked about some of those numbers with you, and I'm going to continue to do that going forward. I want to introduce you right now to a person who knows all about it, and she is working feverishly around the clock, 365, with an organization called Extra Table to remedy the hunger issue in the state of Mississippi. For those that hadn't heard the numbers, what I read was 500,000 people that are called food insecure, and we'll tell you what that is. But in that number, try this on. 1 in 6 children in the state of Mississippi goes to bed hungry. Well, how do we just stand around and just say, well, it is what it is? We can't do that. We got to do something. And these folks are doing something. I want to introduce you right now to Martha Allen, the director at Extra Table. We're going to learn what Extra Table is. And she's with us right now on the Davini phone, the Davini Equipment phone line. Davini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson, your Kubota dealer. Martha, happy Thursday. How you doing?
Happy Thursday. I'm awesome. Thanks for that kind introduction. And we're so excited to be talking to all your listeners. And You're right. We live in a bubble, and we have refrigerators and pantries of plenty, but there are 670,000 folks out there in our state, our neighbors, our future leaders that are hungry, and we've got to do something about it.
Okay, and so I mentioned, like, if I go to, look up different stats, or even I might read some of those numbers at Extra Table at the website, that term food insecure. Okay, Martha, let's start right there. Kind of educate me and us. When I see, okay, this number of people are food insecure, what does that really mean?
That just means more days in a 2-week period than not, you do not know where your next meal is coming from, or you fall in the threshold that is considered low income. And we know that finding food and a continuous source of food is a struggle for you, a continuous struggle. And too many of our families are having to decide between getting their medications or paying the heating bill or the light bill and buying their next meal. Yeah. And that's just not a choice that people should be having to make. Food is a basic human right, and no one should go hungry. And especially, we talk about our children, but, we're talking about college sports here. Did you know that there is a food pantry on almost every college, university, and junior college campus in the state of Mississippi because hunger is such a problem on our college campuses?
I don't think I realized that.
It's a wild, we're blessed. We're fortunate. We live in a bubble. We watch our games on Saturday with dips all over the coffee table, and there's so many people that aren't like that. And we're blessed to live in the world that we live in, but we've also got to remember to serve others, as we serve ourselves and as we serve our neighbors. And there are 13.6% of working Mississippians, work 1 job, 2 jobs, and are still having to show up at the food pantry to make it through the end of the month, to get that emergency bag of food just to make ends meet. Yeah.
We're talking with Martha Allen from Extra Table. And the website is extratable.org. And if I go there right now, Martha, I see the words says fighting hunger in Mississippi for 15 years. I guess that's sort of bearing the lead. I should have said, hey, congrats on your 15th anniversary there at Extra Table this week.
Woohoo, that's right. We are going to celebrate for 365 days, telling all the stories of our history, how we work, and what we do, and what our future holds. And if you're listening and you're not familiar with Extra Table, we are not a canned food drive. So Chef Robert St. John founded Extra Table in 2009 in Hattiesburg because there was a food pantry locally that his mother volunteered at, and it had run out of food. Okay. And so knowing Robert was a restaurateur and had access to food, they went to Robert and they were like, hey, our shelves are empty. We need help. Can you help us? And so with his ginormous heart, he was like, yeah, for sure. So he went to his Cisco rep and he started ordering food and having it delivered monthly, so that the pantry had some quality, healthy, staple items to make it each month. Yeah. Yeah. And after a couple years of doing that, Robert went on a fact-finding mission because he didn't understand how in the hungriest state in the nation, there were so many people that were obese as well. It's like, what were they eating? Somebody's eating something somewhere. Yeah. And so he committed to founding this organization that fundraised in order to use their buying power to purchase truckloads of food. So a truckload of peanut butter, a truckload of tuna, a truckload of all the good things that you and I have at home on our shelves that feed our families. And to deliver that to the food pantries every single month to their doorstep, roll it in, put it on the shelves, all for free. Mm-hmm. There's no membership. There's no application fee. It's free. And so getting quality, healthy food to the communities that we serve all over the state. We deliver to 63 food pantries every month. And that's our mission. So we're different. We're non-government subsidized. It's just 4 girls in an office with a really cool founder and Chef St. John. And we fundraise to buy food that we deliver. Simple as that, efficient and effective to ensure that Mississippians have food.
Martha Allen on your radio right now from Extra Table. And it really is such a neat thing, too, because, and I think I'd heard it was either you or Robert at some point talking about this, Martha, like assuring people, look, 100% of what you give to Extra Table, whether it's giving food or giving to help get food, giving money, 100% of it is going to fight the hunger issue. It's not going in somebody's pocket. It's not a percentage. Every dime of it goes towards the cause.
Yep. So we're kind of like the St. Jude of feeding. So we have 2 501c3s. So I have a separate board, a separate entity that fundraises to cover the cost of keeping the lights on and paying our staff members. Like that's very important stuff. And without those, those dollars coming in, then we couldn't do the great work we do. But that's kind of on the side. Okay. When we fundraise and when you donate to Extra Table, every penny that we fundraise publicly for is going to buy food. So, Matt, if you give me $10, then I'm taking it to my food brokers, and we're going to bring in food. And where you could go to the grocery store and buy, a can of green beans now is like $1.50, $1.78, Mm-hmm. We will go, and with every dollar you give us, we can buy 4 healthy meals, quality healthy meals. So we're not buying junk and feeding junk to people and creating an epidemic of, furthering obesity, heart disease, diabetes, all those things. We're providing quality, healthy food, and raising people up from the situation that they are in order to better their lives, which in turn betters our entire state. So providing quality food to those hungry. And every single dollar, 100% of the food that we purchase is healthy food, and 100% of the food raised goes towards purchasing food.
Martha, the last couple of 3-4 years, we've all experienced, and there's constant conversation going on about inflation, okay, and how the average family, even we've seen our grocery bill go up buying the same stuff we've been buying. It's a lot more expensive now at the grocery store than it used to be. That kind of thing, how did that affect you and Extra Table, as well as affecting all those, food insecure people and the kids that don't have enough food and in the poorer areas in the state? How does that affect?
Yeah, exactly. So, Matt, those folks that are low income, that are food insecure, all of our kids that, eat a free breakfast at school and a free lunch and then don't eat again until they get there the next day. Mm-hmm. Inflation, they're already knocked down, and inflation punched them in the gut, so to say. Yeah. I mean, it hit them where it hurt, and it has kept them down. People that live paycheck to paycheck and barely make paycheck to paycheck, or don't make it paycheck to paycheck, no matter how conservative they are, inflation just continues to hit them every month harder and harder and harder, and they can't dig out of the situation they're in.
Yeah.
And so, for you and I, we're talking about how much it costs to buy a bottle of vegetable oil because it's so expensive these days.
Mm-hmm.
We are having conversations that we've never had to have before about food. I've always lived on a budget, but I have not had to focus on that grocery store budget as much as we do now. The price of food and the price of living is astronomical compared to what it was 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And for us at Extra Table, it's so sad that we are seeing a year-over-year, month-over-month increase in the number of the people turning to food pantries for help. Mm. The number of people that are new each month, the increase that our food pantries are seeing, not just in the areas that people consider to be poor and rural and a place where there's a lot of impoverished people that can't get to the grocery store. It's all over our state. Almost 75% of our state is a food desert, if not more. And that means that you have to drive almost 30 miles to get to a grocery store with quality, healthy food.
Yeah.
And so our state is rural. We have, a very poor state. We have a lot of different factors that affect our folks getting food, finding food, and being successful in feeding their family.
Mm-hmm. It's just, that's the thing for me, Martha, and that's why I, initially reached out to you. Of course, I've known Robert for a while, I was aware of Extra Table, but, as someone who's in the sports world, I've seen the stories of, how many millions of dollars that we were able to raise for sports teams and football teams and, tens of millions of dollars and we, that kind of thing. And that's fine. People love football. We love it. And basketball, and we're fans of our schools and you want to support them. But it almost felt like, okay, with a rising need. And when I saw that number, 500,000 people, over 500,000 people food insecure, that's over 120,000 children in Mississippi. 1 in 6 is going to bed hungry. I just think something's got to, the word has to get out. Something's got to give. The word's got to get out. And I commend you for what you do. And so someone listening, even if it's just one person and they go, okay, I'm getting off the chair. I want to do something. I want to give something, whatever. Where do they go? What do they do to get started?
Yeah, so you just go to extratable.org, extratable.org. Go on there, click in the right corner, click the button donate. $10 is 40 meals, 40 quality, healthy meals. That's 40 times that person is going to be blessed because of your $10. Mm-hmm. And, if you want to learn more about our organization and all the things that we do throughout the year and how we work, using business principles, not just warm and fuzzy feelings, we are the most efficient and effective feeding program in the state of Mississippi. So read about how we use your funds in order to feed more people. And if you're a business owner and you are listening right now, please give me a call before December 31st because we have a tax credit that is income taxes and ad valorem taxes. It is a dollar-for-dollar tax credit. It is a one-page application. It is so simple, you think, that's too good to be true. But it is the easiest thing. We have a great relationship with the Department of Revenue to answer any questions you have. But if you're a business owner, that is a great way to write a check, to make a difference in the lives of so many people by feeding them. And it's money that you would otherwise be sending to the Department of Revenue. Send it to Extra Table.
Right. Dollar for dollar, you said.
Dollar for dollar.
Yeah. That's incredible. Okay, and again, those listening, extratable.org. There are a lot of needs, I guess, Martha, and I would never diminish another type of need or another, area of need for people in our state or really anywhere.
Right.
But the idea of a kid who he or she gets his food at school, the meals at school, lunch, breakfast and lunch, and does not get to eat again until he shows back up to school the next day, that's just hard to stomach. And
it's hard to stomach. I can't even imagine the fear that, let's say it's a second grader, like the fear and the reality that's hitting that kid at such a young age and how they can even cope with that, Yep.
Yeah, and I commend you so much and for what y'all are doing and the work that goes into it, sort of the genesis of the idea from Robert St. John, who is he's kind of an angel walking around us anyway, in my opinion. And I hope that talking with you on the radio here on my show can help. I hope that getting involved can help. And I really look forward to working with you and talking with you more about it in the future, Martha. And thanks to you, and Merry Christmas, and we'll talk again soon.
Merry Christmas. And hey, Matt, if anybody's listening and you want to go online today and make a donation, if you'll make a note in the comments that you listened to the Matt Wyatt Show and heard about Extra Table, if you'll make a comment when you make a gift, I'll mail you a T-shirt. So my gift today for free, if you're listening right now, we want you to really consider learning about our organization. If you'll do that, I'll send you a T-shirt or a sticker. So hit me up as you make a donation.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. Really do appreciate that, Martha. And I'll continue to put the word out here throughout today's show. And again, we'll do this on a regular basis as you have time. I know it's not like you have a ton of free time, but we'll continue to help try to get the word out. Thank you so much for being here today, Martha.
Absolutely. Give me a call anytime. Thanks,
All right.
Matt.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That's Martha Allen. She's the director there at Extra Table. Look them up online, extratable.org. It's a real thing. It's not a made-up issue. It's a real issue. It's something that has to be near and dear to me and you. And these folks are doing it right. There's no skimming going on. $10 goes to the food, and a $10 donation, 40 meals, a dollar for dollar tax credit if you can donate before now and the end of the year. And if you just put in the comments, if you go donate today, you heard it on the Matt Wyatt Show, they're going to send you a T-shirt and some stuff. So please check it out. Stick around.
A lot of people are looking forward to seeing you this Christmas.
Time goes by so fast.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal, the taste bran, the cereal that's All-Bran. A breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of 𝐌𝐬𝐬𝐢 and 𝐅𝐚𝐫𝐦, the rock biter, and the good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing. It's a fun thing. It's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. It's a wing wing. A brand new grand fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the 67.
Wide at thezone1059.com.
All right, back with you. Again, that's extratable.org. Go there today. Give if you're able to. Donate. Get involved. We've all got to do something. Can't stand around and watch it happen. And those folks are doing it right. And so let's get involved. It's extratable.org. I really appreciate Martha Allen for coming and being on the show today. And it's really an important time of year, too, to think about those kinds of things. Really all the time, but especially this time of year. All right, back over to the sports topics for today. You can be a part of the show. Text me, call me, comment on the live stream. Hey to you, by the way, if you're out there in YouTube land or out there on Facebook. Hail State fan, he listened in earlier when we replayed the Mike Leach comments from basically a decade ago where he nailed the whole idea of the playoff. Hail State fan said, Mike Leach is a national treasure. He is. I got something else from him I want you to hear also. Mo texted the show. He said, I don't like the term buy players. Can we say hire them instead? Sure. Yeah, okay, I'll go that way. I'll go with you. Yeah, I don't like it either. And I think I've said it some. I think I've said buy players, and I think that just what comes to mind and what comes out. But, yeah, I agree with you. I don't like that term, so let's go with hire them. Hire players. That's really what's happening. That's really what's happening. Good on you, Mo. We'll axe the buy players, and we'll just go with hire them. Semantics, but okay. I'm fine with it. Ain't no big deal. We'll go with that. All right, so, hey, speaking of Mike Leach, did you hear the one he went on? And again, y'all, we got Coach Leach on our minds today because he passed away this day 2 years ago. We've been without him for exactly 2 years now. We had the speech from earlier about the playoffs. It's appropriate for what we're going to do. This is just entertaining. You remember the one where he explained his situation with student loans, how when he was coming up, he piled up student loans and what that process was like? I think it's one of the best ever. Here's Mike Leach on student loans.
Oh, but hey, let me just say this. Nobody had more student loans than I did, or that had less of a chance of paying them back. So I left undergrad, no student loans. We'd go home to Wyoming every summer. So I went 8 semesters, summer and winter, then went home, worked, and then paid for the semesters. Worked on campus, too. So I didn't have any loans after undergrad. Then law school, I had a ton of student loans, like 38,000. Then I had, then I got out of law school and wanted to look at coaching, and married and had my first daughter. So, so then I would have then I did the logical thing, to buy another year and to finance my coach football habit, and got a master's. I took out another student loan, which brought my total up to about $45,000. And at that point in time, they had about as much chance of getting $45,000 as they did $45 million. Because that may have been the bill. I mean, $45 million, because make $1 billion, I don't care. I mean, and I figured they could only kill me once. And so then, I started pursuing coaching. And in the midst of that, so you got to understand, my first job I made $3,000 for the year. My second job I probably made, I don't know, maybe 10. Living in Southern California, I could substitute teach in the off season some, and then then the next job I'm making like $13,000 in Iowa, but you can't substitute teach because they're only paying you like $30 a day, So then it really wasn't worth it. It wasn't, and so then because I was cutting away from my regular job, and so then at Wesleyan, though, they did let me teach a couple classes, and I had the weird distinction of teaching 2 classes while taking a class or 2. And the reason I took a class or 2, and the worst of it is the interest rate on my loans were crazy high, because mine were negotiated under the Carter administration. And not to get too political with those of you that may wilt, the Carter administration was not the administration to take your student loans out under, okay? But I did. I didn't have any choice. It was like, okay, let's see, wait till the next okay, here we go. No, so so it's a high interest rate, like crazy high. I can't remember, like 8 or something. And then, I get, so I'm teaching class while taking class, because if you took class, then you could defer the loans until you quit taking class, see? And they did let you do it part-time. I could do it part-time. I didn't have to go full-time, which sometimes you do, depending, what loans you take out. Sometimes you do, So I could defer them if I'm going to school half-time. And I'd take classes I was interested in, and they're pretty good classes. Philosophy of Western thought and civilization, abstract expressionist artists, history of Cuba, history of the Caribbean. So they were good classes. But I was dead broke and took those classes so that I could defer my loans. Because it was 6 months after you leave school. 6 months after you leave, then they start charging you interest on the loan and start calling for payments. Well, I didn't have any payments. I mean, I couldn't pay to support myself. My wife's working, I'm working, not getting paid very much, and then daughter's at daycare. And so then, so then occasionally the bill collector would call. So I tried to defer them as much as I could, take a class. So like during the season, no classes. During the winter, classes. Then I would have to go recruiting or something, and then I'd have to cut a deal with the teacher because I'd miss a significant class, and do a big paper or participate in a bunch in class when you're there, that type of thing. So I'd negotiate that out, but I wasn't really doing it for a grade and didn't need the grades or anything. And then, and by then I was a pretty good paper writer, after law school and everything. And then sometimes these bill collectors would call you, and I'd have some knockdown, drag-out conversations with those jokers. So like all those videos that you've seen on the internet are nothing compared to what I was prepared to say to those guys. And then well, and then the worst thing was then they would commingle, when you started making payments, they would commingle collection services. So one collection service says, we haven't heard from you in 4 months. Pay your full loans due, pay up or else. Like I'm going to just write a check for $45,000, of course. And then and then the other service would send you something saying, thanks for your payment, and we look forward to getting it next month. So I'm getting two contradictory things. One says, where are you at? And we haven't seen you. And I used to tell these guys, I said, listen, you can either give me another couple months. You can either give me another couple months or accept a lower payment amount, or else I'll go to Mexico. I'll drop off the grid. I'll disappear. You will never see me again. And so, and some were more reasonable than others, but some, like if you want to see some of the biggest pricks on earth, they work in student loan collection. And the fact that they'd work there, it's just relatively disgusting people. They're the type that aspire to be dog catchers or something like that. Okay, and then yep, I'm going to pick up that cat or dog so I can break that kid's heart.
Coach Leach, man, God rest his soul. He's been gone for 2 years. The kind of people working in student loan collection, the kind of people who aspire to be dog catchers. Kind of folks that say, yeah, I'm going to pick up that cat or dog or ruin that kid's, break that kid's heart. Oh, boy. He went on to say, Coach Leach went on to say that it wasn't until his second year as the head coach at Texas Tech that he got all of his student loans paid off. Now, think about that. Okay, and just for conversation, juxtapose that against a football player getting a full scholarship for 5 years and his master's, and it ain't enough. Stick around.
I was born and raised in Greenville. I've always called Greenville home. This is where I, was raised, went to high school, graduated high school, worked all my life here leading up to going to college. So even when I moved from Greenville, I always told people, they asked me where you're from, I always said I'm from Greenville. I have mother, father, brother, niece, aunt, all live here in Greenville. So this is home. This is where I, live, and I've just always called it home. Small town, I feel like I could walk in any place tomorrow and know 2 to 3 people in there. It's small town. Someone's on the side of the road broken down, hey, you need a boost, flat tire, you need help changing it. That's just kind of what I love about this area, the blues and the food and everything that comes along with the Mississippi Delta that I love. I tell people all the time, my business cards have my cell phone number on them for a reason. Insurance doesn't happen from 8 to 5. When you need me, it's going to be after 5. It hardly ever happens where you have a wreck, get pulled over, need an insurance card, wind blows, shingles off your roof. All these things happen, and it's typically after 5. And so the ability for someone to call me, get in contact with me, text me, ask me a question, and that's what it's about to me, is helping the people that we serve, is taking care of people, and them knowing that they can count on me whenever they need me. I am Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
Y'all heard me talk about Murray West and MurrayWest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. I say they do quality stuff. They really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, MurrayWest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. If you need your logo printed, embroidered, sewn on to any.
You're going to hear about them all and get to talk about it with Matt Wyatt right here, right now on the Zone 105.9 and worldwide at the Zone1059.com.
Back with you. Yeah, it's one of the games I'm looking forward to, Hunter. Army, Navy this Saturday. Of course, you got some bowl games kicking up also with the Army-Navy game. Maybe it'll be a good old-fashioned knockdown, drag out in the snow. I'm with you. Yeah, it's one of the things we're driving at there, Will. I've never encouraged people to give or not to give their money towards, their favorite college football team. People do what they want with their money. It's just, there's a need there. And he says, Will says, millions going hungry in the United States, but sure, donate your money to that college so they can land a 4-star transfer portal guy. I'm just saying there ought to be at least some sort of match going on, right? If and when possible. All right, over to the phone line, the Davini Equipment phone line. Davini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson, your Kubota dealer. Jimmy on line 1. What's up, Jimmy? Thanks for hanging on.
Hey, Matt. Hey, just about every day I bring muffins down there to the gym and work out. And the kids, I bring them to the kids down there, and then sometimes I bring them some donuts and different stuff. So I have to be careful, I don't want their parents. I have to ask their parents if they can have, they'll ask them if they can have, the kids can have them or not, or if they're allergic to them. But there is a lot of kids out there, Matt, unfortunately, that are hungry every day and have a hard enough time going to school. Yeah. Under stress without being hungry and stuff. Mm-hmm. Yep. It's a good cause.
Sure,
but
sure
Matt,
it is.
Today I wanted to talk to you about Bill Belichick.
All right.
His going into the North Carolina sideline, going on to the North Carolina sideline. It's a big difference in the NFL, and to me, and the college rank. In a lot of different ways, on a lot of levels.
Sure.
So I was wondering, do you think that it will be a hard transition for Belichick And will Belichick wear his hoodie with his hood over his head while he's at North Carolina?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I guess, it gets cold. They might have a few cold weather games late in the year. Nothing like what he experienced in New England. But, I touched on it earlier in the week, Jimmy, when we saw the rumors, and now it's confirmed he's going to go there. The former Jets GM guy, Lombardi, who was isn't that who it is? The former Jets GM who's going to go be his GM effectively there with North Carolina. Regardless, the question about Belichick, I just don't know. Like, how's it going to work? Because you're in a free agency era in college football, okay? And in the NFL, they always had free agency, and that's one of the things that Belichick and the Patriots all did really well the years that he was there in New England, was handled free agency really well. They would get out of the draft and get out of the first round, trade out of it, and try to just be aggressive free agency year to year. And they would, of course, you had Brady that you could continue to build everything around. But the thing is, in the NFL, schedule different, the acquirement of talent different, the free agency windows different, the numbers, the money, the caps, salary caps that you could operate under. It's easier to understand. You run it more like a business. Everybody's got contracts. You know how long they're going to be there and how long they're obligated for. And you don't have any of that in college football. So just going, hey, Belichick can evaluate players. He was good at free agency in the NFL. I don't think it translates to this college game because there is no free agency window in college. It's 24/7, 365 days a year. All the players have some agent or someone who's kind of like a handler or a family member or something who's constantly carrying on conversations, whether it's, within the transfer portal window or not. They don't have to wait. They don't have to wait until their name is in the portal. Like, officially they do, but nobody has to wait because there's nobody to enforce anything. So it's 365 days a year free agency in college football. There are no caps to operate under. There are no contracts where you know what you're getting into in terms of how long you're committing to a player or not. There's none of that. And so I don't know how that kind of thing translates from the NFL to college football. I don't think it does. Now, evaluating whether a guy's a good football player or not, that translates. Okay, and can Bill Belichick evaluate who's a good football player? Sure he can. But so can everybody else. Okay, they reported yesterday that North Carolina's collective, or their quote unquote NIL giving, what we know that is that's your money to pay the players, to hire them, to satisfy what Mo didn't want me saying buy players, he wanted me to say hire. Well, that's what that is. You're piling up your money. They had $4 million and went from $4 million to $20 million. Well, that's great. Okay, that's great for them and great for North Carolina. Let me tell you something. Just because you have $20 million, just because you spend $20 million on a roster, does not guarantee you a bunch of wins. Now, maybe it puts you in the game. Great. And then you have the funds that you need, so then you can rely on some coach who's telling you where to spend those dollars and what players to spend them on. And to me, okay, maybe that's the deal for North Carolina. Maybe that's their deal, is they go, all right, if we're going to pile up $20 million, we need to have somebody that we can trust and rest well at night, knowing that this guy knows what he's doing as far as where that $20 million ought to go. And so maybe that's what you're running into.
Hey, Matt, real quick, the name Bill Belichick, will it draw hundreds of young kids and their parents
No.
to the University of North Carolina
No.
campus?
No.
And then will it give them a free inside ride to the NFL if at advantage?
No, it will not. It won't. That's just not the way it's going to work. You know, maybe one, maybe two every now and then, like literally one or two players here and there. But overall, no. You have a scenario where about 60 to 70% of the guys that they're after at that level simply want to know what you are going to pay them and what you are willing to guarantee them. And the other 30 to 40%, whatever that is, there is an element of what are you going to pay them? But there's also those people are a little more so looking at the fit and the scheme and the playing time and even in some cases the education. But that's not the majority of the players at that level. And that's the system they've set up for themselves. Jimmy, I appreciate the question, man. Thank you. You know, so it's not, I'm not, you know, speaking to they will or won't have some success. I'm really not. I don't know. It's just weird to me to look at it and go, man, how is Belichick going to work out, you know, at the college level? You know, and for somebody like him, he's not going to be coordinating one side of the ball or the other. He's strictly going to run it like an NFL organization. He's going to deal with trying to get the most out of a younger, you know, group of players who are getting paid a lot of money. And then that's maybe also some of the thinking. I don't know, but maybe that's also some of the thinking there from the North Carolina standpoint is going, okay, full-on free agency and getting the most out of guys who you're paying a lot of money to. Who can do that? Well, somebody with NFL experience can certainly do that, sure. And, you know, hey, look, again, from North Carolina's perspective, maybe there is an element of we will get a bunch of eyeball. We'll get some TV time now. You know, we'll get a North Carolina game or two in prime time on, you know, a huge platform, at least initially, more so than usual, simply because we have Belichick walking around and Jimmy, they want to see if he's wearing a hoodie or not. You know, for whatever that's worth. That's going on as well. Yeah, this is really interesting. And then who was the other one? Oh, yeah, Rich Rod. Rich Rodriguez going back to West Virginia. They announced that one. How long has he been gone? 17 years. Back after 17 years. And, buddy, so when he left, if he's 61 years old now, that means he was 44 when he left West Virginia the first time. Mm-hmm. It's going to be fun to kind of keep up with some of that stuff. I mean, it sure is. All right. Fun show today. Appreciate y'all. Thanks for the phone calls, the comments, the texts, and otherwise. Hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. For Beaver, I'm Matt. All of us here on the show in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go! With the home team. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. See you then.